Still ahead at 10, a first in American history. Former President Donald Trump was indicted in New York today. We continue our coverage of this historic event.
That grand jury in New York indicted former President Trump in relation to a hush money scheme during the run-up to the 2016 election.
It is the first time in history a former president has been charged with a crime. I talked with a local political experts on the impact of this indictment. Former President Donald Trump was indicted on criminal charges in New York today. Dr. Mark Caleb Smith, a political science professor at Cedarville University, joins us now to discuss the indictment. And appreciate your time as always, Dr. Smith. I want to start with the historic gravity of the situation because this is the first time in the U.S.'s history that a former president has ever been indicted. I want to get your reaction to that history.
Yeah, historic and shocking. We've really never had a president close to this kind of legal jeopardy. Richard Nixon was close to being indicted under federal charges potentially, but he was pardoned before that took place. Like many things with Donald Trump's presidency, this is a first.
Well, this is under seal. There's much we do not know, but
Right.
that of which we do know, Dr. Smith, what is the case against Mr. Trump and how difficult would a conviction be?
From what we know, this case stems back to his payment of hush money to the porn star Stormy Daniels, who had an affair with President Trump before he became president. He paid her off in 2016 to conceal that affair right toward the end of the presidential election. Under New York business laws, if that kind of a payment is recorded as something false, as a fraudulent recording in the business records, he can be prosecuted for that. And so I suspect that's what kind of indictment that we're looking at here. I think there are potentially significant problems with the indictment, if that's what it is. And I think the DA's case is probably going to be difficult to prove.
Mr. Trump is running for president again. There's nothing at this point that legally prevents him from doing so. It seems to reason that this indictment will energize his support amongst his base. Yet, you know this, Dr. Smith, the base is never a question when it comes to elections. The electorate outside of your base is where elections are won, and picking off some voters from across the aisle as well. So how will Mr. Trump do that with those voters?
Yeah, I think this will probably strengthen his hand with his particular base of support. But of course, he has to go through a nomination process. And we've seen favorability of President Trump decline a little bit over the past 6 months to a year. I think his strength within the Republican Party is receding a bit. He's still much stronger than any other candidate that's coming close to running for the presidency, but he is in a weakened state. I think this makes his reelection more difficult. Even if he were to win the nomination, though, as you suggested, I think an indictment will make it much harder for him to appeal to Democrats of any kind as well as to independents. And so as a general election candidate, I think this hobbles him pretty dramatically.
Well, let's talk about that nomination process. What do you expect to see from other Republican candidates who have already announced their run for the presidency or those who have yet to announce?
It's been an interesting reaction so far. Most of them have been very critical of Prosecutor Bragg in Manhattan. But I think a couple of those candidates are going to step forward and be a little bit sharper in their tone toward President Trump. Ron DeSantis has been critical of Trump in this regard, and I suspect Nikki Haley may be as well. So this is an opportunity for them to maybe put some distance between themselves and the former president.
In the meantime, the White House has issued a no comment about the indictment. President Biden has yet to announce an official run for the presidency. How do you think that this might impact that, or might it embolden maybe other Democrats to throw their name in the hat?
I think it puts President Biden in a little bit of a stronger position right now. But I think the economy and other factors are probably going to be more important for him than whether or not President Trump's indicted. But we'll see.
All right. This is, again, as the dust is settling on a very historic day. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Mark Caleb Smith, political science professor at Cedarville University.